Giovanni is totally one awesome speaker, awesome trainer. I met him, I want to say about a year ago at Shared Space. He and Sorrell, who was on, who did a talk for us, uh, talked about performance, looking within self. It was totally awesome. So I have a lot of notes for it. So it's so awesome, Giovanni, that I really can't even brag too much more about it because it wouldn't do you any good. So one of the things that we all have to do is that we all have people that we work with, that work for us directly and even indirectly. And because of that, they're part of our team, whether through referral basis or whatever. So they're part of our sales team. So what we want to do, we want to make sure that we're able to get the highest performance from them. So why not bring the experts? So I have Giovanni Gonzalez who's going to talk about that. So Gio, the floor is yours. We're going to 11:30, so it's 11:04. So you got the floor, and I will mute myself.
Oh, thank you. And do you want me to maybe
Oh, baby.
at some point open it up for questions and comments and a little bit of interaction, Dr. St. Clair?
However you want to do it. The floor is yours.
Okay, yeah, perfect. So I'll create a little bit of context for the opportunity of the conversation, and then I do want you to feel free to raise the hand, and so that we can interact and be in the inquiry of for the opportunity of high performance. It's a lot more. I found it a lot more insightful and more powerful when we interact in the conversation than if I just talk, if I just speak on the subject. So some context on the opportunity of this inquiry of how do you create high performing teams around you? How do you get your team to connect to high standards and not just connect to those, but also live them, but also commit to them, right? And I think it's a question that it's in almost everyone in mind who is committed to something or who have a job to get something done. And I'm very, very passionate about it. My from for the last 10 years, my life has been about that question: how do you create high performing teams? And my passion is to really support organizations and companies in creating an environment where high performance is possible. Everybody's looking for that, increased bottom line, right? Save money, but also that people enjoy the quality of their lives, that people actually enjoy being at work, given that for a lot of people, that work and what they do, it's a big source of the identity that they have, is a big source of their lives. So that has been my passion for over 10 years, and I've been lucky enough and privileged enough to be able to work with very large organizations with over 20,000 people, for government departments in different countries, for also non-governmental organizations in the Caribbean, in North America. I did a little bit of work, Dr. St. Clair, with Sorrel in Haiti. And so the whole spectrum, and it's all under the context of how do we elevate the performance of people. So a big what's a good word for it? A big nugget or a good placeholder is that people do better when they feel better. When they feel better, not only about the company they work for, but also if they feel better about themselves. However, that in itself is a big challenge. If I am committed, if I am a business owner or I'm a project manager, right, or I'm accountable for a big result, and I have that big placeholder, right, that distinction, that leadership distinction, people do better when they feel better, right? Not about themselves and about what they do. How do I get people to feel better, right? That's a big question, because everyone comes from a different background. They have a different view about the industry, about what they do, right? And they have different views about the people they work with. So I can't just go individually and create and become a kind of therapist or psychologist or some kind of coaching individually, it takes too much time. However, if I don't address it, then I got people working in all kinds of directions, pulling in different directions, and maybe sabotaging themselves. And organizations deal with that a lot, constantly, everywhere, right? Silos are happening, and then people, they start relating to the people they like the most, and in some degree they get they create an agreement about what's working and not working in the company. And so then they became these little teams, and then now we have these little silos going on. So I wanted to create a little bit of context. So how do I penetrate that, right? That's really impacting performance in every direction and every side of the organization. How do I do that when I have an organization of 1,000 people or when I have an organization of 10 people? How do I do that? So there is this principle in leadership that people support what they create. It's a very big principle in leadership or when working with a team. You may find, maybe you can relate this to yourself, you may find that when you tell people what to do, there's lots of resistance, right? They'll do whatever they want, and then they're going to tell you what they can and cannot do depending on their time and all the things that they got to do. So how do I transform that resistance into collaboration? And that principle is at the top. People support what they create. So in whatever project I'm up to, the conversation, the interaction about the opportunity of the project has to be in a way in which people get to say what they're creating. They have a saying in it. They have some kind of opinion about it, about how to do it, because people support what they create. Absence of that, then you're constantly having to enroll people or sell them the idea, and then you got to get buying into what we usually refer to. And that takes something, because people are there for different reasons, right? So if now people don't say this, right? But I'm gonna throw something that that you probably can relate to for yourself or maybe others, people you know. People sometimes are at work not for the possibility that the work is. They're there for paying their bills or insurance or education for their children. They're there for something else other than actually the possibility that the work is. And so when I create a new project or we need to work overtime or something, that doesn't necessarily connect to paying my bills. I'm already paying my bills. I'm already getting my insurance. I don't necessarily want to go overtime. Well, I don't necessarily now want to work with Ken because Ken is in marketing or Ken is in technology, and I don't deal with those people. So when you have a project that you're committed to, then for the leader or for the person who is taking responsibility for the opportunity of that project, we want to engage in a conversation of, well, how do I involve the people who are part of this project and have something to say about it? How do I create a conversation where they construct that future or the implementation of that future? The other aspect is, and very critical, is not only, one principle is people support what they create, and the other principle is that what gives people access to high performance is connecting to the why of why they're doing what they're doing. Having people connect to that why. Why is this all for? And usually, and I have not been in any organization where there is not a deep and profound why for the reason of being in business. Every organization that I've been able to be part of, there is a big reason why. There is a reason why they are in business. It's not just the transaction. It's not the numbers. It's not just to make money. It's not just to stay in business. It's not just to compete be the best competitor, and so that I can be acknowledged in a magazine, right? Best place to work at. There is actually a reason why. And that reason is connected to the marketplace. That reason is actually connected for a greater good for society. In any industry, whether you're a cashier's check place, whether you're a dentistry, whether you are HR, whatever it is connected to something bigger. And if a team does the work to have it be clear for everybody on a regular basis, the why of the business, the why of the department, then people connect to it. And in my experience, right, people are constantly looking for something bigger than themselves. They want their life to be some kind of meaning, to have some meaning. I want my life to be meaningful for something. But if I am in a cubicle or if I am somewhere where I can't quite connect the why, I lose the drive that we all have. So as a person accountable to a project, or as a person who's a leader for an organization or a leader of an organization, right? I want to be thinking of, is my team connected to the why? And how often is my team connected to that why? A great example of someone who elevated the performance of an entire organization is Steve Jobs. Everywhere he went to, you can almost take this to the bank, but obviously it's not everywhere. But everywhere he went to, whether it was an internal organizational summit or an exterior one, external one, where he's speaking to the world, the why was always present. That sense of creating a better world, that sense of being someone who's at the cutting edge of technology and breakthrough thinking that makes this world a better place for other people, right? That why was always present. So whether you liked him or not, right? The feeling, the emotion of being someone who's making a difference was bigger. And so that doesn't just apply for Apple, very innovative, very cool company. It doesn't just apply to it, right? It applies for everything that we do. And I've been able to experiment this, like seeing it as a research in all the different countries, whether I've been in Africa or whether I've been in South America or in the Caribbean, wherever I've been, when I deal with the painful construction of connecting people to the why of the organization and listening to why that matters to them, organically, people begin to reinvent themselves around what they usually sabotage themselves with. And so it's, and in some degree, I'm oversimplifying the process, right? However, that is the big principle, right? That's the big nugget for us to be in the inquiry of. People support what they create, and what elevates performance is the opportunity to connect people to the why of it all. So I want to kind of stop there, and Dr. St. Clair, and kind of play with the conversation a little bit before we throw another nugget.
I appreciate. I have a question, Giovanni. When I was listening, from what I'm hearing, about helping people to create, support what they create, that seems almost like from a leadership perspective, from the CEO, that they're empowering their people to create. Is that what you're talking about? Empowering people to create, rather than seeing them doing it as, okay, you're just doing your job, but give them a project that adds personal satisfaction.
Yeah, to have people be part of the process of how do we implement something, right? Depending on the nature of the organization and how large it is or the project, right? It may seem difficult to have people ask them a question. Well, how do I do this? Rather than just telling them what you need to do. However, there is a way in which I can tell the people the future that we want, a small team, and we can tell them, this is the pathway that we are suggesting you take on. Do you have a different offer? Or can you align? So now you're telling me what I need to do. However, you gave me the option to have an opinion about it, to have a saying about it. And that little exercise allows people to align and connect with the creation, because I did have the opportunity to give a counter offer. And so that really helps. Now, at the level of the executive level, right? One of the biggest blind spots for a CEO, right, when I've had a chance to work with them, is to actually create the plan without the people who are going to implement it. That it's a recipe for disaster, because the teams are going to argue about how to implement it. They are going to argue about it, and they will sabotage themselves, not because they're not good people, but because they're committed, they're going to sabotage themselves. So at the highest level of an organization, it is critical to include the people who are going to implement it. And when you have a huge organization, it's really important to give people an opportunity to voice a counteroffer, just to see about that, just to see whether there is a better way. And that aligns teams, right? So that's the angle I wanted to kind of share.
I have a question.
Great, Jack.
Um, Mr. Giovanni, thank you for speaking today. I got a question. When trying to empower your employees to be creative, and even if they create what they created is not conforming to the business model that will create more business, or matter of fact, it will probably hurt. Being that we don't accept it, how do you keep their morale up? Because a lot of times that we welcome the ideas, but sometimes it's not something that we can actually do. Oh, me and my wife, we have a home health agency. It has so many roadblocks that or procedures that we have to maintain, which it doesn't allow us.
Jack, I stopped hearing you. I don't know if it was just me. Can everybody hear Jack?
He disappeared.
Your voice disappeared, Jack.
Repeat that last part, Jack.
The headset's disconnected, Jack.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yes.
the last part we heard was about you have a home health care with many components to it.
Oh yeah, we have many components that we can't really deviate because we're controlled by whatever the state regulations and things like that. And we're trying to have creativity, but a lot of the creativity that they come up with, we really can't conform to a lot of them. But we want to keep their morale up, because a lot of times when they come up with something, they want you to use it immediately, in which it doesn't really conform.
Yeah.
So we want to have that same, yeah.
Yeah, that's a really great question, right? And I want to acknowledge you for growing your business so that you can now have this problem. At some point, you didn't have that issue, right? So it's an issue of a growing business. So I really want to acknowledge you around that. The one of the things that really supports that alignment, Jack, is that if you could get together that team and say, so what's the vision for our company? What's the vision for this department, or for what you're talking about? But I'm going to generalize it. What's the vision for our company? And then together, you guys come up with that brainstorming idea. This is what we want to see. And by allowing for them to say what's the vision, now the process of implementing, right, that reverse engineering kind of strategy thinking will begin to address those regulations that you're pointing to that they tend to overlook. So if they have a vision of, well, we would like to be in this many areas and in this many places at this time. Okay, very good. By when? So we say, well, by this, right? Well, by this time. Okay, so a year from that, what does need to happen? Now, when you start creating that reverse engineering process, then all of them will begin to tell you, or some of them will begin to address the regulation issues. They will begin to say that. So you don't have to like hammer them like, oh guys, you guys are not thinking about this. They actually say, well, we're dealing with this regulation issue, then we're dealing with this one. and you allow for them to say something around, well, how do you deal with it? How do we deal with it? How do we go around it? Or how do we implement a process that deals with it, right? Now they see the complexity from the creation. And it's useful for, even though, Jack, that's a painful process, right? Involving people, right? However, in the long run, it will save you so much time, because now they don't come to you with, I got this problem, and you're like, okay, well, solve it. I got this problem. Well, okay, we'll solve it. No, they actually come with, well, we had this problem, and this is the solution, and this is what we dealt with, and we talked to this person. What are your thoughts? So it begins, in the long run, it begins to save you time. Does that make sense? I know I'm oversimplifying, given that I don't know all the variables, but
it makes sense. You know, we have started to do more evaluation of each employee. We just step out. So and my wife and I, we try to stay out of the office as much as we possibly can, and to allow them to make mistakes. And then we'll come in and we'll check and see what was done, and then ask them question why they did it, and then try to correct some of the mistakes, and then see what areas can be improved. And we ask them their opinions on that as well. That what you're saying is true. It's starting to work, but then some areas it's like for as a business, we can only devote so much time to it, and we got to have a production.
right. So what I want to add is evaluation is different from strategic thinking. It's very different. So and I know that when I get into this process, for the business owner, it's a little bit painful, because you got to get a lot of things done. But in the long run, of your business, this will save you hundreds of thousands of money, depending on the impact of your business, and many hours of work. Because going to the future with your team, going into the future and what they are committed to creating, allows them to trigger different parts of the brain around prevention, around efficient processes. And so in allowing yourself to go into the future with them creates those opportunities to empower people. And since one of the foundations of leadership is people support what they create, now you're empowering them organically. So very, thank you for that question, Jack. That was a very good question.
I have a quick, well, I don't know how quick it'll be a question, but
we got 8 minutes.
Yeah, I'll try to get it out real quick. So I work with companies and I do their social media, and I work with a company. They have a lot of sales reps. They have a lot of techs that are in offices all the time. And I've even gone to luncheons with, I have all of them all together, and we've talked to them about providing me with photographs and different things. And we've come up with incentives like, whoever provides just the most photographs in a month will get $100 gift card or something like that. We try to keep the momentum going, but it seems like it goes for about 15 days, 16 days, and then they quit sending pictures and everything starts to fall apart. Somebody wins the gift card, but next month no one's doing it. And I mean, I even show them examples of photos to take while they're in with a client, and when they're repairing equipment and stuff like that. One photo that got the biggest response of any photo we've ever posted for them was one of the technicians actually holding a newborn who was in for a testing, and they were going to be putting the newborn, attaching the electrodes and stuff to the newborn, and it just went crazy. And I'm like, you need to take these types of pictures. And, I just can't get the momentum to keep going where they're empowered to do stuff, but they don't do it.
Yeah, that's a big question, right? And that's a question of creative thinking. So I'm going to point to a few areas, but you'll discover which one works, right? Because you're doing a lot of creative thinking around it, like incentives. So one way where I would suggest to look would be that when you get together with them, you address the issue that you're pointing to, that momentum falls off. And then you ask them, what do you think we can put in place? Not that you give them the incentive, that they give it to you. and then you write them those down and you put them somewhere that they can see it, and you kind of allow for the space for them to take responsibility for the opportunity of it. You talk about the impact, the why, so that now they're part of it. And then also, if you could create a team leader other than you that supports 3 people at least. So there is one person accountable for kind of like incentivizing, kind of like reminding them for only 3 people, not everybody, on a weekly basis, that they speak to you so that you guys can reinvent yourselves around it, right? So I just wanted to kind of like point in that direction, but it is some thinking to do around the team, what's missing for them.
Right. Yeah, I was trying to be that team leader for them, and I would email them once a week and say, hey, so-and-so sent me a photo, but that's the only photo I got for the month. We can do better than this. And I was trying to rah, but but if it's one of their bosses, I think it might be a little bit better.
Exactly.
If you don't mind me adding in, because I know we got like about 6 minutes. One thing I would add in, Ken, if you don't mind, Giovanni, find out what's their trigger point, because not everyone may want a gift card. When I was in management, find out what is it that they like. Some of them may want time off, some of them may want a free lunch, somebody may want recognition. So I think once you find their, I use the pleasure point, then I think that you can go for. Time is running down. Any other questions real quick? Thank you, Jack. Any other questions from Kathy, Dr. Sable, Tawana? I know Tawana came in late. Anybody has any question about having a high performance team?
Hello, hi. Well, my husband's here also, Dr. Sable as well, Dr. Steven Sable. Hi, nice to see y'all. I'm his wife, Dr. Merlin Sable. Nice to meet you all. As far as working as a team, first and foremost, I would like to tell you all, thank you so much for welcoming us on this call. We are so honored to be a part of this group. I would just like to get your contact info so we could discuss business, so we could learn more about your business.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I was actually just typing my contact information in the chat.
Perfect.
Everybody go to the chat.
Thank you so much, Mr. Gonzalez.
Absolutely.
And also, if you look at the email I sent to you, I do have a link for his business, so you can definitely click on the link.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sinclair.
No problem. Any other questions, real quick, as the time is running down? And this is your time. He charges about $1,000 an hour, so you might as well get your question in.
Yeah,
okay, well, Gio, you got 3 minutes, Gio. Since no one has a question, I'll give you 3 minutes to close it out in your own way.
Yeah, I wanted to share a short anecdote with an executive I was working not long ago. And she was working on the opportunity of whether staying at the work or going to a different organization. And so, I asked her, what would have you stay? And then she said, feeling like I'm part of it. And she said, so you would go somewhere where you'll be part of what they're creating? And then she said, yeah. So that's the challenge in itself that we all have in some degree. It's not about finding the right place so that I can be part of it, but it is about finding a way, reinventing my leadership in a way in which I create the environment as if everyone is part of it. So she was challenged with, well, how do I talk to my direct authority, right, to the CEO, I think, or the COO, in a way in which they see that I am not part of the vision? How do I talk to them? And how do I bring the rest of the team to empower the person who leads me? And I think that has been that turning point in certainly in my life, but in the opportunity when I get to do coaching. It's not necessarily about finding the right environment. It's about reinventing my leadership so I can create the environment that allows for high performance. So that's what I wanted to say to close us up.
Powerful words. Thank you so much, Giovanni. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule. I want to thank all of you for joining us on this Tuesday. We will be back on Monday at 9 a.m. I'm speaking with the speaker tomorrow, kind of finalizing the topic. And everyone have a great day. Continue to refer, to network, and to make things happen. And
Thank you.
Kathy, do me a favor, Kathy, email me your contact information, because I know some things. I have 2 contact informations for you, Kathy. Email me so I can send you a referral.
All right, sounds good. Thank you so
Thanks
much
a lot. Everybody have a great day.
for the presentation.
Thank you. I will talk to
Thank
you
you, Giovanni.
soon, Dr. Miranda.
I'll send you her contact information, Gio.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Yes,
Dr.
thank you,
Morales,
Dr. Gray.
yeah, thank you.
Bye-bye.